Welcome to Stanislaus Football Weekly, and now for your hosts, Joe Cortez and Brian VanderBeek.
Hi, welcome to the show. I'm Joe, joined by Brian. We are 2/3 of the Modesto Bee sports staff.
That's right.
Our good friend Ron Augustini is out there somewhere doing something or other. And we're going to take a look back at the NorCal Regional Championship games last year. We had last week, I should say. We had two Stanislaus District teams advance to NorCal Bowls. Yep. Oakdale High, which was defeated 28-7 by Clayton Valley Charter, and Central Catholic, which defeated Capital Christian 35-14. A score you picked.
On the dot.
On the dot.
On the dot. Right before kickoff, 35-14.
I can vouch for it.
And you were close.
35-21 was my prediction, but Central was.
They were impressive. They're impressive on that very slow field, but did you want to talk about the Oakdale game first?
Yeah, let's go to Oakdale,
okay.
And then we can look forward to Central as well.
Because you saw it and I wasn't there.
So, Clayton Valley is a really impressive team. Right. You know, they lead the nation in running yards per average at about 450 a clip. Oakdale held them to about 400. But they are just a really dynamic team. Miles Harrison is a fantastic runner. He has more than 2,000 yards rushing. They've got that big offensive line led by Reggie McKenzie's son, a big 6'5", 300-pound kid. Just a dynamic offense, and boy, you can see why they were the favorite in this one.
It was interesting because obviously this is the same team or the same school that Oakdale played a couple years ago at Lincoln in the NorCal game, and completely different matchup at that point.
Sure.
Oakdale was much more powerful, won that game, and went on to Carson. That team, that Clayton Valley team, liked to throw the ball a little bit more, but it's interesting to see. So when I thought Clayton Valley, I thought, oh, that's the same, wide open, a little bit more wide open passing team that Oakdale saw a couple years earlier, but
Not really this time.
Not really this time.
They were a true running team. And it wasn't just Harrison. There were a couple of other running backs who were really talented, really hard to take down. Trent Merzon said it best. He said, that kid, Harrison, is never off balance. His feet are always underneath him. And he was right. That was the impression I got. He's always balanced, always ready to run at full speed. Mm-hmm. And he did a lot of that. He rushed for more than 200 yards, and I think it was 235.
Wow.
Just a fantastic back. Now, Oakdale was down 6-0 in that game. They went on a 15-play march that took them very near the red zone. No big chunk yardage, 2 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards. Just a perfect drive. Yeah. Kept Clayton Valley on the sideline, kept its offense on the sideline, and they ate up 8 minutes in that drive. They get an illegal procedure call on 4th down and short, makes it 4th and long. They're not able to convert.
Right.
If they get that first down, maybe another, even if they don't score, Beak, they go into halftime trailing 6-0. As it were, they trail 14-0 at halftime, and they just they really had to hold serve against this team, and they got down. They were down a break, if I may use tennis jargon again, and they just couldn't catch up, and they didn't score until late in the game when they had the second unit in there. C.J. Domingo broke free for a beautiful 55-yard run to make it 28-7. But
amazing season for Oakdale.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they really did not expect to be there at the beginning of the season. Really interesting year in the VOL with as we transition into Central Catholic here with the power in that league. Sierra's emergence as the league champion, number 1 seed, and then Oakdale, the last public school team, or last Division III team, Division II, and the NorCal team standing. Another remarkable year for the area's top public school program.
Absolutely. And then jumping over to the top private school in our area, Central Catholic. Now, you had seen Capital Christian play the week before when they eliminated Modesto Christian.
Yeah.
What did you think about the field conditions at David Patton? Did it really hamper those guys?
Without question. Justice
Shelton
Mosley, yeah, the very talented running back from Capital Christian, who's heading for Harvard, a 2,000-yard rusher, just was slashing and getting the edge against Modesto Christian on that artificial surface at the Great Bowl the week before, going into the muddy conditions at Central Catholic, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the
Sure.
show too. But no, what did he end up with? 25, 30 yards in that game. He had no clue how to run on that sloppy surface, and Justin Rice did.
Yeah, he ran for 307 yards, a new school record, and but he came out of that game a little dinged up.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping he's at full strength for the state championship game when they take on St. Margaret's on Friday at the StubHub Center. Is it the StubHub Center?
StubHub Center used to be Home Depot Center.
StubHub Center in Carson. It's a 4 p.m. game. It'll be televised on CSN Bay Area and other outlets and Dish and all that stuff. Who do you like in this one, Beek?
I like Central Catholic to three-peat. You say Margaret's is unbeaten, and they keep on knocking off all these unbeaten teams on their route to this game. But these schools get into this game against a Central Catholic team who has played a tough schedule all year. And it's the same whether the last 2 years these teams come in with a full head of steam and haven't faced a team anywhere close to the power of Central Catholic.
Right.
And that eventually manifests itself in a Central Catholic win, and I see no difference here.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think
the score, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough because we haven't seen these Southern California teams. But you're right. St. Margaret's has knocked off 3 consecutive undefeated teams. Last week they got Christian of El Cajon, 48-21. They were 13-0. Christian was, and I think Christian was kind of the favorite to win the SoCal tourney down there. The week before that, they defeated Grace Brethren of Simi Valley, 34-21, another 13-0 team. And then the week before that, they beat Saddleback Valley Christian 28-7. Saddleback was 12-0 at the time. So it looks like St. Margaret's is on a nice roll right now. But you're right, it's happened 2 years previous. They get on these little rolls, and everybody thinks the Southern Cal Power is going to rise up and do it. And then
it's tough. I mean, Central Catholic is another level, and they're even more battle tested this year than normal, having gone through that VOL schedule. And pick a score. Let's go 42-14. I really don't think it's going to be close. Central Catholic winning 42-14.
I'll go 42-21.
There we go. There's a pattern there too.
Yeah. But we started to mention it last week. The NorCal Regional Championship, Division 4, was played at David Patton Field. In the past, they've gone to neutral sites.
Right.
This year, they went to home sites. And you were not a fan of this.
Not a fan of it at all. I mean, and you can talk about what happened to Oakdale, but even speaking with Billy Hill before the Central Catholic game, obviously assistant coach at Central Catholic and athletic director, and he told me, and I had to find him to get a field pass for the game.
So did I.
And it hurt his ability to coach, the fact that they were hosting that game. Not a big deal for Central Catholic, really. It was a big deal for Capital Christian, though. And this is where I really felt it was unfair to Capital Christian. Yes, they have a turf surface for their home field. They had only played, this was their 3rd game all year they played on natural surface. Never mind that. The fact that this natural surface not only was Central Catholic's home field, but was mud. And we already talked about how it took their best running back, their top running back out of the game. Was not fair to Capital Christian. These games do need to be played on neutral sites. I know the CIF is worried about attendance at neutral sites, but judging by what I saw at Patton Field the other day, that game would have drawn better had it been played at Lincoln or maybe even back at the Great Bowl on a fast artificial surface that better not only showcases the talents of these players better, but makes it special. I had to think this just felt like another
league game or something.
Another home game for Central Catholic, and
it did to me.
Yeah,
it did to me.
And for Capital Christian, why would they have to be undefeated and advance to the NorCal Championship for the first time in school history and have to play on another team's home field? It needs to be special for the kids, and that wasn't. I just think that the CIF has to do, and this is the state CIF that runs this, state office has to do whatever they can to put these games at neutral fields. And you saw stuff at Oakdale that is mind-boggling to me.
You talk about not special. It was not special for Oakdale's contingent of about 70 players and coaches to get off a bus for a 2.5 hour bus trip and find one restroom available to them in their locker room. A restroom about the size of a coat closet. A restroom that didn't have a working commode in it. Eventually, another restroom was opened up for the Oakdale team. It had, I believe, 4 stalls, but it was shared with a wrestling tournament that was going on in the gymnasium just across the way. So while the Oakdale players...
A girls wrestling tournament.
A girls wrestling tournament.
Yeah.
So while the Oakdale players were... While these young men were in the restroom doing what they do in a restroom, here come young ladies and passersby and whatnot, kind of infringing upon their team privacy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just not a good situation. The showers in the locker room were capped.
Yeah.
So the Oakdale team had to be escorted after the game to another facility where they could shower. And, you know, hours before the game, Coach Trent Merzon is on the phone with the CIF telling anybody who would listen, these are unacceptable conditions. And he's dead right.
Yeah.
You know, the field at Clayton Valley Charter is beautiful. It's a field turf playing surface.
Black.
It's colored black. it's a nice venue, but the other conditions were just abysmal and not worthy of a Northern California regional championship. It was
a home field.
And it was a home field, right?
I know it costs money to rent facilities. You got to make it special for the kids, and playing NorCal title games on home fields is not special. Into the rant right there.
Into the rant.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree. It needs to be special.
Yeah. Well, you get to go to Carson. This will be your first trip to Carson for this. You'll really enjoy it. I've been 4 times, and it's terrific. We can complain all we want about NorCal venues. This is a great venue for state bowls. The fact they play 5 games over 2 days. The crowds are good. They could be better. I'm also anxious to see next year when this moves to NorCal what kind of, first of all, where they're going to end up playing, and second of all, what kind of crowds they have, because high school football is bigger in the North than it is in the South. You may have more powerful teams in the South routinely, but as far as fan following, it's bigger in the North.
We love us some football up here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, well, I could tell you to go see a game. You have anything else to say?
No, I'm going to let you wrap it up. What are you going to say? Because you can't just.
That's right. Well, yeah.
Well, they can tune in.
They can tune in. Like I said, there's just. You can't, unless you want to just jump in the car and go to Carson. It's only 5 hours, but all these 5 games are going to be on TV on the Comcast station. So I guess you got to stay home and have a great football weekend.